Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for our Village of Alsip Committee meeting. Today is October 30th, 2023. Before we start our meeting, our clerk, Renee Harding, had to be absent this evening for another issue, and our office supervisor, Erica O'Donnell, is sitting in for her as a pro tem clerk for this evening. Can I get a motion and a second to approve having Erica be our clerk this evening?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Erica, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Dizelle?
Here.
Trustee Juarez-Mendoza is absent. Trustee McLaughlin?
Here.
Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Trustee Nava Esparza?
Here.
Trustee Peretta?
Here.
Mayor Ryan?
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Can we join us, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Before we offer our reports, we do have a bid opening this evening, and that was to replace the overhead lighting in both fire stations, Chief? Both fire station apparatus bays.
All right, we received two bids. The first one is from Marshall and Electric out of Blue Island. Their total cost is $28,070. They do have a bid bond. The second one is from Interactive Building Solutions out of Joliet. Their price is $49,958.94, and they also have a bid bond, and that was all that we received.
Very good, thank you. Officers' reports, starting with mine. I couldn't fit all this on an agenda, but just want to let everybody know that first construction at 11710 South Pulaski, that's where the strip mall is getting built. Construction is going really well there. That's going to be a Taco Burrito King and a couple of retail stores next to it. I was told Friday construction at the new Firewater Barbecue and Brew passed building inspection on Friday. He's got a couple of issues to finish up for the health inspector, and they hope to be open within the next few weeks, according to our building commissioner. Next, the employee health care. We had a meeting with them and with our representative from Alliant Insurance, and we are anticipating an increase. And I've got Renee Formel working on some alternative ideas there too to see if we can save some money on, and we plan to meet with her in the very near future. And I'll certainly have her meet with the board as well as the unions once we get those numbers to know what we're going to do in our renewal. I believe that's January 1 is when we renew our health care insurance. Also, the village needs, I was just told this today, we knew of one employee that took a job elsewhere in public work, and then Mike Frater's with us. Mike, you have another employee that just gave notice too? Okay, so and he's going to a new union career position that he's going to. And then today, I heard that we have another employee that's taken a job someplace else in the water department. So we're actually going to be looking for at least 3 people then, 2 in public work and 1 in water. Okay, so HR knows about it. He came to me to talk to me about it and stuff, but we're going to be posting those jobs internally real soon, so people can bid for those if they wish, and after which I certainly will go out to the public with it then too. But per contract, we post those for 5 working days in-house first, so we're going to get those posted. Okay. And he did get exit interviews with at least a couple of them yet too, so it's good. And then one thing we came upon as we were doing this yet too, and this was a long discussion. About a year ago, I asked the board if we would, and the board agreed to have our attorney draft an agreement for the village to pay for CDL licenses for employees that had to have a job with public work or water departments. And it turns out, our attorney, I talked to him last week, Mike Kankar, Mike drafted an agreement, like a resolution, but the board never approved it because my interim HR person at the time, who was, before we hired Tony, the two of them agreed, and it didn't get back to me, was that we need to bargain that with the union. So, and that was at a much lower pay rate than what we just approved. So, what I mean, certainly, we can still do this if we wish, board members. Otherwise, if you wish to stand on the new pay schedules that we have, we don't have one formal unless you want to still take that action right now. Because when we originally said we were going to do that, we were only at about $17.50 an hour. Now you're at about $21 an hour. So you may not have to take that action. Because you can't just arbitrarily just impose, like a new rule, even if you're paying for something without the union approving to do something like that. So it never got to that level. That's my point. So we can go and talk to the union and see if it's okay with them if we do this. Otherwise, if you wish to leave it stand and we, on the merits of the new wages, still be attracted to the position without having to pay for those licenses. But we won't know until we try, Mike, right? Because it hasn't been tested yet, right? This will be the first of what we're talking about right now.
So what you're also saying is that this would be kind of the proverbial carrot out there for attracting new hires.
Exactly. Yes? Right.
But like the mayor said, I mean, the pay scale might be attractive enough to attract new hires. So I think at this point in time, I would go ahead and advertise as is, and if we find that we do still have difficulty, then potentially we revisit.
Exactly. That's how I feel about that, yes.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree also.
Okay. I think the board did a great job of identifying the gap, and we met that gap as far as scale was concerned to be more competitive. But let's see if this flies, Mike, without having to make more adjustment. That's all. Okay. Thank you. And then I want to just let everybody know, if you weren't out, Saturday I was with our Director of Emergency Preparedness, Chuck Geraci. Chuck, great job. Again, we graduated another class of CERT personnel. That's the Community Emergency Response Team. We were at the Sertoma building on 127th Saturday. At the same time, Alsip Police and Fire were assisting. They participated in Saturday's funeral procession for the World War II vet whose remains were recovered, and he was laid to rest at Holy Cross Cemetery. So, Chiefs, thank you for doing that too. Fire Chief, you guys had the flags out with the ladders together and so forth?
Yeah, as they're setting it up, we get called for a structure fire also at 115th and
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yeah, it was crazy, a little bit short time, but yeah, we got everything up and going and all that.
Good to
So it
hear.
worked out.
But thank you, both chiefs, for having personnel out there to help out with that and stuff. I heard that was a nice turnout, too.
Very good.
And then last week I had the third graders here from Lane School. We had over 35 kids that came in. They want to learn about how to make how do we create a bill? How do we create an ordinance or a rule and stuff then, too? So my example was, I saw on social media some folks were taking issue with the hours and so forth for Halloween. So I said, let's use this one for an example. So the kids got it. I thought they did a pretty good job of understanding, and really, I think the board understands. While the median, the average hours for most Halloween villages around us are about 7 o'clock, we went with 6:30. The board unanimously agreed to that a couple of years ago, really just based on the fact that it's super dark outside, it's dark enough, and the other side being that, again, our officers work 12-hour shifts. They're working from 6 till 6, Chief is actually keeping the day shift a little bit over, and you keep bringing in the late shift in early. So, these officers are going to be working somewhere around 14 hours that day. That's a lot to ask of your police department to keep everybody safe. And I asked these kids, too, I said, you guys want to go to school 14 hours? And nobody put their hand up. I said, that's what I thought, that kind of thing. So, again, I think it'll be a great event tomorrow. It's always a good time. Hopefully it's warm enough for everybody to enjoy themselves. And Chief, I did like your excerpt in our newsletter. I was reading off to him about safety yet, too. Staying in groups and wearing the right kind of clothing and you name it and stuff. It's a really great point. Everybody made a nice contribution to the newsletter and stuff, but the kids totally understood where I was coming from. And that was about it. I also had a couple of meetings last week at night. I know the Friday night, too, I was at a get-together with the Cook County Suburban Publishers Association, so all of our media from all the newspapers were out there and stuff. That was a nice event to have yet, too. It was nice to see all the mayors come out and support them as well. On your agendas this evening, first on here was the request to approve the appointment of a resident, Jonathan Torres, as a commissioner of the Planning and Zoning Commission to fill a vacancy left by Stan Graychik, who recently retired. Just give you a short background on Mr. Torres. I met John a few years ago. Actually met him through church. But John, he's a 6-year resident of Alsip, 3 children. He had a couple twin girls that recently graduated from Prairie Junior High and now Shepherd High School, attending Moraine Valley College. He's got a son in 4th grade. Both he and his wife are graphic designers and are working for a major healthcare company here in the Chicagoland area, and he's also a small corporate businessman as well, too, in the area. So I felt John was a good selection. He's over at, talk about being centrally located, he's over at Mrs. Rad's old house, like kitty corner from the junior high over there and stuff, too. So he's got a bird's eye view of everything that goes on right in the community right there, and a neighbor to Trustee Murphy as well then, too. So, no, a very, very nice man. So I'm going to ask the board to approve his appointment to that committee, that commission, I should say. And then number 2 was a request to approve the appointment of a Planning and Zoning Commissioner, John Gallagher, to the position of Vice Chair on the Planning and Zoning Commission as well then, too. John has been on that commission since at least 2017, and he said he'd like to help the village more so in that role. Number 3 this evening, I've got here the mayor's office is working with the finance department capital needs and establish a capital needs budget. All committees are encouraged to meet with your designated department head and discuss capital needs and identify any departmental adjustments that can be made to afford those capital needs yet, too. So like everything else, it's great to know that what to anticipate down the road, especially with apparatus, equipment, personnel, and certainly we try to get help with grants as often as we can yet, too. But, excuse me, trustees, please meet with your designated committee or your chair people, your department heads, and as chair people, and help them advocate for what they need. Then we'll go to the clerk's report. Erica?
Presentation of the October 16th, 2023 board meeting minutes and presentation of the September 2023 IDOT motor fuel tax allotment in the amount of $75,040.24. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. And I apologize. It is a committee meeting. Does anybody have any questions on my report? No? All right. Then we'll go to, we don't have an engineer this evening, so we'll go public forum. Anyone in the audience wish to address the board tonight? Mr. Smoot? No. Thank you. Do me a favor. We moved that when the kids were here today. Can you spin that? Thank you. Sure.
Now, I heard you say, Mayor, that the police were going to be on a 14-hour shift?
No, just for the one day. Yeah, just for
One
tomorrow.
day?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that kind of goes into what I was going to say. I subscribe to the Alsip Crestwood Patch newsletter.
Okay.
I observed this on October the 25th. And this is, goes in kind, with Halloween. There are combined 25 registered sex offenders living in Alsip.
Okay.
gain of 3 from last year. 19 are classified as sex predators, and 1 offender is classified as sexually violent. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, there were shootings across the U.S., at least 11 dead and scores injured. In one case on Long Island, a man is accused of pointing a gun at a 6-year-old's head because of a Halloween mix-up. So I'm just wondering, because my question is this, are we going to be prepared here in Alsip, because this is widespread. Nobody is safe.
I think, Dan, I appreciate you bringing that up yet, too, but I think that was again, to follow my point, I believe Chief Miller's got all hands on deck for that night, right, Chief? Is that what you're doing, with having everybody working while the kids are out trick-or-treating?
Correct. Everybody will be in uniform marked cars. It'll be almost triple what we normally have.
Yeah, Mr. Smoot, we pretty much empty out the parking lot for that. Like, everybody's out working that day and stuff, so we're going to have both shifts are going to be on at the same time. So, yeah, we're going to give it optimal, as many hands out there as we can and stuff. And that's part of the thing, too, about not extending it too late at night yet, too. Let's make it reasonable, where we can have all those officers available to help out with these families, keep everybody safe. These kids today, I had the second graders in here today. They come in every year, and that's what they ask, too. And they're like, what's the biggest part of your job? I said, my priority is always your safety, just like everybody else. So we'll make sure it's a good event.
That's a good answer for the kids, Mayor.
Absolutely. But the same thing goes with the adults. You know, how tired do we get every time we flip on the TV and you see something that you know is unnecessary? And no, that's always going to be our priority, is have a really safe village and stuff here too, Dan. All right, you too. No worries, sir. Thanks.
Has Alsip experienced problems with for the trick-or-treaters?
You know what, Yvette, could you come up really, because we record all these, if you would. I'm sorry, too.
Follow up on
Yeah.
with his question. Has
Yeah.
there been any problems?
Thanks, Chuck.
I'm real tired.
Chief, could you answer it for?
Have there been problems in the past with the trick-or-treaters? Because I'm actually walking during that time a lot of times, which I'll be, doing my 3-mile walk tomorrow. And
The last few years, we've had no significant issues. Our presence pretty much deters any would-be wrongdoers. It's mostly family-oriented, and everyone's out while it's still light out, and they're wrapping up as the dusk is settling, and we still have officers out for an extra hour or so after trick-or-treating hours.
okay. Yes, typically I see the family, people are in groups, and don't appear to be a problem, but because I'm out there, that's why I'm concerned that, and I'm just exercising, and I know that the trick-or-treaters, I've never witnessed anything, but I was just curious if they're...
No, most of the teenagers aren't out as much as they used to be. They're kind of they have better things to do now, with phones and everything. So.
You're not inflicting harm on people. Are they just acting kind of goofy and just, doing...
Not even that. We haven't had any issues at all. The last couple of years have been really tame. So.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. So I guess
I moved here in '97. I had a classic Cutlass. I parked out in front of the house, and I have a driveway. I don't know why I didn't use it. Again, I lived in the city my whole life, and I got shaving cream in the whole side of my car, so not a big deal. A little bit of kid goofing around, that kind of thing, too. Yeah. Aside from that, Yvette, this is really, we don't have any serious issues here at all and stuff.
I used the good stuff on your car, though.
Of course you did,
Not the dollar store stuff.
The kid told me you can't hit me either. I remember him telling me that and stuff,
But
too.
tomorrow's going to be kind of snowy and supposedly...
Oh, yeah. No, that's what I told the kids there. This was really done well in the newsletter. Just everybody should stay in groups. Costumes should fit well and be flame resistant. Always test out. I told the kids, always test out the makeup. Don't be using permanent marker on your face and all that kind of thing. Remember, look both ways on the street. Examine all the treats before they eat them. And make sure nothing's been tampered with. Even the homemade stuff. Make sure. People buy things at the store. Maybe the expiration date is already there. I'm big on those all the time. stay on the sidewalks when possible, avoid dark homes. Again, this is why I told them we put all these orange tags on all the windows. So, and I told them, dark house, stay away from the dark house. They might not have anything available, or might not be home. And flashlights if possible, or glow sticks, and certainly enjoy the night with caution. That's all. But no, very good stuff, Chief.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yeah.
The gentleman brought up a good point, and I'm just curious, as far as registered sex offenders, how do moms and dads know, or even older children know that, like teenagers that go amongst themselves, that the house that they're knocking on, the door that they're knocking on, harbors a registered sex offender?
Chief, can you give them the rule on that, please?
It's available online. The Illinois State Police has a database where they can search. They're also told not to give out candy as part of their sentence, so to speak. So they're not supposed to even answer the door.
So it's up to parents to do their due diligence to research this before their children go out.
Well,
The older,
parents should always,
be
yes.
with the younger children, but teenagers like to go out,
Yeah.
themselves.
I
And
mean, it's a condition of their release to not participate in
Sure.
Halloween. And they get visits ahead of time
to remind them.
to remind them, yes.
So are you guys aware of those sex offenders, their addresses? Do they have a list like within their squad car?
Yes, they do. At roll call on Halloween, that's addressed every year.
Okay, great.
Your Honor, I want to add this. Like I said, I subscribe and I get it through my email.
Right.
That
The patch.
Alsip Crestwood patch newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
If you can Google that, look up the time because it was Wednesday the 25th at 9:03. If you can Google that, that has a whole map and the addresses of these sex offenders.
Okay. No, I've seen those before, Dan. I have. They publish that every year and stuff then, too. As the chief said, we actually, all of our officers are aware of which homes, that we will spot check those to make sure they're honoring their release as they should.
And
Okay.
one more thing, Your Honor, and everybody.
Yeah.
Right now, Cook County Sheriff's Tom Dart's office is overwhelmed right now. Even if he had enough personnel, he cannot possibly deal with all the sex and human trafficking which is going on in this state.
Sure.
Even if he had enough people, he wouldn't do it. So I urge the parents to go to that website and see if you can find it, because those addresses are clearly marked on there.
Agreed. And like I said, we have that many officers out there, and everybody's got those on their computers yet, too. We'll be spot checking, make sure they honor their release agreement then, too.
Okay. All right.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll go on to our committee reports then. Let's start with our standing committees, Finance and IT. Trustee McGlowan.
Thank you, Mayor. I will have the usual list of payroll and accounts payable for approval next week, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Fire. Trustee Murphy.
Chief Szynski would like to give an overview of the annual open house held on October 14th.
All right. First, I'd like to thank all the residents and everybody that came out. Weather wasn't the best. We ran out of luck after about 7 years, so we had about 350 people is what we're guessing that came out. We had 15 vendors. That was the most vendors we've ever had there. Lieutenant Rick Kraus and firefighter Charlie Harding, they do a great job putting it together every year. We start planning actually right after, we actually had our meeting already for this last one, and they'll get together back probably in May and June, start planning for the next one. Made it a little bit more challenging this year because Sharon Cisnowski, my administrative assistant, has always been part of it, but she's been off on medical. So both of them had to step up, and they did a very good job meeting the challenge as well. Did a little bit differently with our side-by-side, so a little bit more intense from the past. We actually had the unburned one, or the unsprinkler one. We had 3 room burns, just to show what happens when you leave your door open versus leaving it closed. The other one that was sprinkler protected, we kind of showed that if you have a sprinkler activation in your house, only one head's going to go off unless the fire is intense enough. Compared to what you watch on TV, that one sprinkler head goes off, they all go off, because that's what everybody remembers is from the TV part of it. So kind of divided that myth there. The thanks to Chuck and his CERT people, they provided 9 volunteers. We also had another 8 volunteers from Chicago Christian, their baseball team. I think we had 8 or 9 firefighters come back off duty to work the event as well. Public Works provided the barricades, so thanks to Mike Fader.
Where's that at now, Chief? You still using it?
Yeah, it's front line of Station 2. We keep adding oil to it, that's all.
Okay.
It's been an ongoing problem for a couple months, and we just looked into it a little bit deeper.
And we've got 3 ambulances now, right? Okay.
Right. Next one's on order, but unless they start getting people building it, we might not see it until 25.
So I was just going to ask you, what's the status on that?
Yeah, it's supposed to be ready at the end of next year, but it might get pushed to 25. They're great at building chassis, but now they can't get people to work in the factories to put them all together. Plus, we'll see if the UAW strike has anything to do with any of our vehicles coming up also, so I'm sure that'll be a domino effect.
Any idea what the availability, did Steve at Chicago?
They can get a motor. They can get a motor tomorrow.
Yeah,
they can get one the next day.
a brand new crate engine?
Yep.
Really? Okay.
Yep. The motor itself's about 5 or 6. The rest of it's all labor.
Right. All right. Thank you. Trustee Murphy, go ahead.
Next, I have the request for approval of an ordinance amending Chapter 9, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 4, Hazardous Materials Discharge, Section 9 through 61, definitions of the municipal code of the Village of Alsip. And that's all I have, sir.
So, Chief, that's just still referring back to the batteries?
Yeah, the lithium.
Lithium batteries?
Yeah, just added into our language.
Okay.
Because, again, we have to look at, hopefully we don't get too many incidents, but we do have to look at mitigating them and then the cost for that as well. So.
Right. And again, great job with the open house on the 14th. I was out there for that. You had really a nice turnout. We had a lot of events that day. I was jumping to a few different places and
Yeah,
stuff.
October, whatever reason, October's been a very busy month the last couple of years. Just there's always so much stuff going on now. So, thank you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. So next we'll go to the police and traffic safety. Trustee Dalzell.
Chief, I'd like to discuss a couple of police department updates. Chief?
Just want to keep the board apprised of some of the progress we made on some of the programs that we asked for in the last year. The FUSIS program has been implemented. There's currently 4 businesses and 1 school online. In mid-November, the installer will be back out, and we should have 5 additional schools on board, as well as at least 6 to 7 more businesses. This is an ongoing sales pitch to our business community to get them on board. It's quite honestly the biggest investment the village has probably ever made since like water and sewer for our business community. So we're meeting with as many as possible, especially the bigger factories, to get them on board. As part of the FUSIS package, we have a camera registration program, which is now live. This program is geared towards residential cameras. This program does not allow the police department to live stream a resident's camera. It only enables officers to know that a camera is present at a particular address should an incident occur.
So if anybody sees these, Chief Miller, we met today, we're going to possibly get some different yard signs, maybe some signs a little bit easier to read. There was a lot of content that was on these little white signs if you see them around town. We got an example out here in the hallway. But great program, Chief, where you can hit this QR code. And if you want to share your Ring doorbell and so forth, we can't access that unless you let us look at it, right?
What would happen is the homeowner would register with us online, provide their email address, how many cameras they have, whatnot. So if an incident occurred on that block or in that neighborhood, we could directly email that person and ask them to send us through a secure link, video footage from their residence.
So it's going to help them in the end, yet too. But we had a lot of content that was on there. Chief put up all the signs last week, and we're going to try and put up some signage that's a little bit easier to read and stuff yet too, because there's so much there. But you've already had just since you put them up last Thursday or Friday, you've had 27 people sign up already?
Yeah, since Friday, we went from 7 to 27.
That's great.
And then on all the Halloween bags that we're handing out tomorrow, we got the flyers on the front, so hopefully mom or dad sees it and they can just snatch it off and scan the QR code and get that done.
And then, Chief, with the fuses, what ballpark, we have like 600 cameras lined up so far?
Well, if everybody follows through, we'll hit that mark pretty easily. There's a couple businesses that have over 100 cameras that are on board, so provided that they follow through, the program will be a success. We just got to stay on top of people.
Right.
Now, Jay, on the residential cameras, are there any specific requirements?
No, to my knowledge, there's nothing specific. Basically, the homeowner would pull the footage we're looking for. So if we said, it happened on Saturday between 1 and 2, they could just go in and pull that chunk of video off and send it directly to the investigators.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what brand they have, what
No,
type?
doesn't matter. Any of that stuff doesn't matter.
Okay.
My experience with fuses has been very positive. It's one computer screen that shows all our squad locations, everybody who signed up for fuses as far as the businesses go, their cameras, where they're at. It shows traffic information, weather information, and it's only going to get better. As we start to install our Axon in-car cameras and body cameras, fuses will allow us to access those officers' cameras to see what's going on in a particular situation. It will also give us their GPS location so that during an incident we can see where they are, where our vulnerabilities are as far as coverage. Those things are huge when it comes to a major situation. Just to follow up kind of what this gentleman was talking about earlier, we're preparing for these things every day, and fuses is a big part of that going forward. Our license plate reader cameras, currently there are 20 installed throughout the village. Our vendors are working to get them on the fuses platform. These cameras have already been utilized to solve several hit-and-run accidents, thefts, and recovery of stolen vehicles. Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul's Retail Crime Grant Award. As you know, last year we were awarded $267,000, which paid for the first year of fuses and 10 LPR cameras. This year was not as much, but we'll take the $50,000. We got another $50,000 this year, so it'll go towards more than likely more cameras. Tyler Justino, Aaron Wood, and Alonzo Marufo graduated from the Chicago Police Academy on Friday. I'm proud to say that I had on here a request to hire 2 officers for the January Academy. Technically, we're fully staffed. We still have 4 people in the current academy that just started last month. The 3 we just got out are not going to be on their own for another 3 months. And essentially, I'm asking to overhire by 2. We have 2 to 3 retirements next year, and the academy has gone from 3 months to 4 months to this last class that got out got extended to almost 5 months.
Okay.
So you're looking at 5 months academy and 3 months of FTO. 3/4 of the year is gone by the time we get a body on the street. So
if we send them the academy in January, they'll be ready in the summer when everybody's retiring.
yep, and by August.
I think the other side I always look at too, Chief, is the idea, like I said before, when you've got officers working 12-hour shifts, it's not easy to ask them to work overtime. I mean, it's already a long day, and for you to come in and work your day off, another 12 hours is it's not that easy for you to staff and stuff then too. So.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, every budget year, we're in the retirement phase right now for Tier 1 employees. Every year, you're going to have 2 to 3 officers retiring. When it comes to 26, 27, you're going to have 5 or more retiring. So we kind of got to stay ahead of the curve on this thing.
Okay.
I'd like to thank the police department for doing a great job on 122nd between Cicero and Laramie. you've been patrolling that area. I mean, no, really. At some point, it seemed like it was just like the highway, that they were speeding up and down because, you know, it's high traffic.
Oh, yeah.
And now, they always put us on. I'm like, yes. I mean, really, one day I had to run, I was outside, the officer had pulled over one car. I had to run upstairs, come back down. I'm like, he had a whole different car. It was only like 10 minutes later. Great. I really appreciate that because, I mean, they have no respect for the stop sign at 122nd and Laramie, and they treat that strip as, you know, I think a lot of people be running late for work.
Yep.
A lot, I think. And they take it as a, like, you know, 294. So you guys have been doing an excellent job.
I appreciate the timing on that.
Yeah, no, thanks for your comments. And they must all be running late down my street, too, because I can hear them at the corner, you know, as they're heading that way, too. But, no, I appreciate your comments, too, Yvette, that they're working very hard, and I've noticed that as well, too. And actually, a lot of the officers have tried to help, and everybody gets it, too. Usually at the beginning of the school year like this, we keep an eye on the schools really well and remind everybody that stop signs there for a reason. Mr. Frater's guys are doing a nice job. All summer long, I asked them, you know, I know we got stop signs where they should be and stuff, but Mike's putting out these painted stop bars on the ground, too, bring even more attention. The idea you're supposed to be stopping there and stuff here, too. Well, you saw when we just redid the streets just north of 115th Street, that contractor actually wrote the word "stop" on the street and everything then too. You know, I mean.
Yeah, we're lucky sometimes if they just slow down.
So, thank you for your comments on that. And then, go ahead, Chief. Anything else that you had too?
I didn't know if anybody had any questions.
Oh,
I'd like you to
go ahead.
lay out what your anticipated time frame is with regards to the academy and what the cost would be in order to provide that overstaffing, and then also how reliable it is for the retirements. So it'd be nice to have them submit their letters timely so that we can anticipate that for certain. I know that they can recant that at any point in time, but
I think it's 120-day or 160-day notice they got to give.
Right.
I mean, you know how it is. It's
right.
It's 50 and out. It's that's
Right.
the way it's going right now.
But I need you to come up with those numbers so the board has an idea of what the additional expenses are going to be, and we know in advance of when the academies are going to be there, which academy you anticipate, what the expenses are going to be involved, so that we can plan for that accordingly.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be the January Chicago Academy. And that's the other problem with this thing is our list is about 6-8 months old, which typically isn't old. But if we sit on it, everybody's hiring still. So whatever candidates are left on it, if we don't hire them by January, are probably going to be at another police department for the June Academy. And then we're going to have to do another list. Right. Start over again.
Is that when the next one would be? Is if we don't send somebody in January, it wouldn't be till June?
It would be, it probably actually would be September, I think.
Okay.
Chief, how many names do you still have left on your eligibility list?
I think there's 6 left.
Okay, good. I know fire they just got to the end of theirs, so we're going to have to hold another test pretty soon with fire. But, okay. And when's the last time we had a test? Was that just last year?
Yeah, it was about 6-8 months ago.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Well, I can tell you, it was about 6 months ago.
About 6 months ago.
These 3 were on that list, so.
Okay.
Yeah, if we don't hire for January, then this list is expired.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, no, I agree. Sorry, I agree. You know, that everybody's applying for jobs at the same time, and there's such a need right now in that profession. Yeah, somebody else probably swallowed them up. Okay. Trustee Elzell, anything else?
I have nothing, Chief. Done?
I just wanted to make one more quick note. Last Tuesday, we had DJ Daniel from Texas. He's been traveling the country. He's 11 years old, diagnosed with terminal cancer. So he's been traveling the country, visiting police departments. He's a police fanatic. So a bunch of South Suburban departments participated last week in doing an honorary swearing in. We were one of them. So we gave him a little uniform shirt and challenge coin and a bunch of other good stuff, and took some pictures with him and stuff like that. So it was nice to have him out here and his appreciation for policing.
It was a nice event. They had the train out here and everything. This little 10-year-old boy, right? 11-year-old. His goal was, he's with Make-A-Wish Foundation. His goal was to be deputized in 100 different police departments. So Chief Miller and the chief from Blue Island, who else was out here too?
Crestwood participated, Posen, I believe.
Okay.
Cook County Sheriff's Department. So
Kid had a great time. They had a nice time riding around on the train out here, and you guys all swarm in together and everything, yeah, too. It was nice.
only department with a train.
Yep. So thank you for doing that, Chief, again, too. Very nice job.
Yes, thank you.
So we'll go to our Public Work and Boat Launch Report Committee.
We have a presentation of the Public Works September 2023 Monthly Activity Report. And second, we have a request for approval to hire 2 Class 2 operators in the Public Works Department due to resignations. Positions will be posted internally for 5 days before being advertised to the public.
And is that number now 3, Mike?
No, it's at 2 right now
it's
still.
still 2. Okay.
But I was wondering if I might be able to get a consensus from the board to go ahead and post this internally right away, just because I am down 3 guys, 1 because of workman's comp. And with winter coming, I really want to get the process moving along, so.
Yeah, because this is just going to be the 5-day internal notice at this
Correct.
time. Erica, can you pull the board, please, for that?
Trustee Dizelle?
Yes.
Trustee Lawrence Mendoza is absent. Trustee McGolvern?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Neves Barza?
Yes.
Trustee Peretta?
Yes.
Consensus carries.
Okay, Mike.
Thank you.
Work with HR and just get that posted everywhere it should be and
Absolutely.
stuff here, too, okay?
And then, if I may, I just wanted to provide the board an update. We had sold some vehicles at auction on October 14th, and the one Ford F-550 we sold, dump truck, for $13,000. The other Ford F-550 dump truck sold for $6,700. The Ford Explorer sold for $1,500. And the Ford F-450 utility truck sold for $3,500.
What year was that $13,000 truck?
It was a 2008.
You got good money for that, then.
Yeah. We had redone the dump body on that a few years ago, so,
We had
They look
Band-Aids on
clean.
that, I remember, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Now, Mike, and they did that at the Palos Hills garage this
Correct.
year? Okay.
Yeah, and that was through the Southwest Conference of Mayors.
I didn't have time to get out there and stuff. Did you get out there to look at it?
No,
or-
I did not know.
Okay, you were laid up then, too?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for doing that, Mike, yet, too. Are we square with titles and all that kind of stuff yet, too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, the auctioneer will take a percentage of the items that were sold, so I don't have the exact dollar amount yet, but they'll get it squared away.
Very good. Okay. Anything else, Mike? As long as
No,
you-
that's it.
You got the floor? Okay. Yeah, certainly. Let's see if we can try and attract, see if anybody wants to make the change. If not, next week we can post it outside and stuff yet, too.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll go to Water and Sewer Report. Trustee Nava Esparza.
Thank you, Mayor. No report.
Trustee, I did meet with Commissioner Triban last Friday, and we're, for the most part, a lot of the water main work is done on 115th Place, but it looks like it's a mess. And I've got them moving a porta potty off the street, and like things like that for the weekend. I get it, and I want to get some of that stone out of there and all that. Mike, do you know anything about those as well, too, that project? Are you tracking that much or anything?
The only thing I'm aware of is that they were waiting to get some restoration work done, but the overall majority of the project has been completed.
Yeah, they're pouring a lot of concrete now, too. They're fixing all the driveways and anything that got cut or damaged during the construction is being remediated right now, yeah, too.
And we're hoping for good weather to get the asphalt restorations done.
Exactly, right. It's just, I went down that street last Thursday, and it's gotten, I mean, it's a construction project, but that thing's been beat up all summer, and we got to get that straightened out. Okay.
Is it okay to post the sewer and water position too then, since we just found out about that today, so that can get started internally, or do you want to wait on that?
Sure, just in case, it's the same difference. Thank you. Then we'll go to the Building and Health Report, Trustee Parada.
Thank you, Mayor. No report this evening.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Human Resource and Insurance, Trustee Murphy.
No report tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Economic Development, Trustee Nava Esparza.
No report, Mayor.
Okay. I talked with Condesa Del Mar, actually Becky did the other day, and we're doing our best to try and promote that property of hers. I mean, it hasn't had much in the way of activity, and Lieutenant Katowski helped shag off some transient folks that were hanging around near the strip mall over there and stuff then too, and she tried to ask if we can do more to help her. I says, well, we certainly are. We're trying to promote your property as much as we can to try and see a new development take place. I actually spoke with a real estate person today who I'm familiar with, and he was contacting her as well too. Everyone in the real estate market is really happy about how much Alsip has grown in the last bunch of years, and there's a lot of businesses that want to be here. It's just like anything else. It's tackling taxes and things like that to get here yet too. And but I talked to a commercial realtor today, and he was getting a hold of Mrs. Giannakis and seeing if he can help her try and promote that property as well too. So we're doing what we can to make that happen.
So what is Next Site doing if we're engaging with other realtors?
Next slide, I gave you a couple of reports on it. What did they say? I don't even have it with me right now.
Could you send it to me via email? Because I know I get paperwork, and, I mean, when I arrive, I don't really get a chance
Oh, no,
to...
I've sent you a couple emails on them the last month or so.
If there's a latest report, if you could send it. I'm just curious
Yeah,
to what they're working on, since we are paying them to engage with the business community.
Yeah, there's one project that he helped out with that we can't talk about public yet, but it's trying to move forward right now, and over on Pulaski. But at the Cicero Avenue, I'm actually talking with I'm going to bring something back in committee in 2 weeks. I'm talking with the Southland Development Authority. I actually had some of their paperwork with me this evening. I'm not ready for a conversation on this yet too, but we're talking about trying to do. We've been doing very well economic development-wise, but I'm going to make a push to do a little bit more on Cicero Avenue. I want to fill in those gaps going down Cicero Avenue. So I'll have something ready in a couple of weeks. I'll get together with you and your committee. We'll talk about it, okay?
So qualified contractors to replace the roof on the Public Works garage. And we also need to add to that, because the information that Roger put together also has a number 2 to go along with it, which would be the pumping station number 1.
I drafted
on
that,
17th.
yeah.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
So
But,
I threw a copy in everybody's mailbox, but Roger got a hold of me today, actually, and just said he wanted to include the same. I talked to Dan Triben. The roofs are similar, and certainly Roger's going to hold mandatory walkthroughs so they can measure for themselves. We don't want to predetermine sizes and all that kind of thing yet, too.
So we're going to modify number 5?
we need to modify. Which? Oh. I say, Mayor, the roof's going to be the same on both buildings? I guess is the question.
I walked out here without mine. What does it say there, Trustee Dalzell?
It talks about the linear footage for each of the gutters and fascia.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'll clean that up. I'll take that out. And I want to let them do their own measuring. I don't want to lead them along.
Do we also want to specify a color for the roof? I know a lot of these roofs going up as these membranes are in a lighter color. facilitate,
Oh, I'm not sure. Mike, do you want to do something like that?
Currently, the roof on the Public Works garage is it's a white, so it reflects the sun. So,
Right.
yeah, we probably would like color to be a lighter color.
Well, it's white right now, right?
Right.
We want to keep the same tint like
Yes.
that. And Trustee Elzo, I did do an overview of the pump station. They got a white roof, too.
right, I'm just saying, though, is that it wasn't specified?
Oh, yeah, no, I'll put it in this, I'll write that into the spec then.
Right. Thank you.
I actually did send this off to everybody, too, so if you see something that you want tweaked, let me know if you see something you want to add in there, too, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. I didn't see that. I read that thing over. I didn't, but I like the idea of keeping them bright roast so they reflect the sun. Next, we have Village Properties. Trustee McLaurin?
That was Village Properties.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. We'll go to Ordinance and Legislation. Trustee Prada.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Ladies and gentlemen, grab a cup of coffee because this is going to be a long one.
No, it's not.
Read fast.
All right, number one, there was a request to approve having the village attorney amend the Village of Alsip's ordinance under Chapter 5, Animal and Fowl. This amendment will align with the IDNR, Illinois Department of Natural Resources law relating to exotic animals as follows. Bullet point number one, scientific knowledge. IDNR's regulations are founded upon a wealth of scientific knowledge and insights, as the state's guidelines allows the village to identify which animals can be safely owned and which may require special permits or considerations. Bullet point number two, consistency across Illinois. The adoption of regulations in line with state ensures uniformity in exotic animal ownership laws throughout Illinois. Such consistency simplifies the regulatory landscape for both residents and law enforcement agencies, reducing the confusion and facilitating compliance. Bullet point number three, prioritizing public safety. Illinois regulations prioritize public safety by categorizing animals based on their potential risk to humans. By adopting these guidelines, Alsip can mitigate the potential dangers associated with exotic animal ownership and enhance protection for its residents. Bullet point number four, promoting animal welfare. Alsip can ensure the welfare of exotic animals through regulations modeled after the state's guidelines. Such regulations establish standards that promote responsible ownership, proper care, and humane treatment of these animals. Bullet point number five, avoiding arbitrary bans. Rather than enacting arbitrary bans rooted in fear or misconceptions, aligning with states' approach allows Alsip to make informed and targeted decisions regarding which animals require special regulations. This approach ensures that responsible individuals are not unduly restricted. And that's the end of the bullet points. So, I do like to express just three concerns before we go ahead and approve this. Bullet point number two, law enforcement agencies facilitating compliance. I am unaware of right now if our law enforcement agency could actually, if an incident were to happen, let's say at a school, a child brings in their Komodo dragon and puts it in their backpack and brings it to school and it gets loose. Is our law enforcement agency trained to capture and harbor this animal until maybe NDNR comes in and takes over?
No, and we don't want to either.
Okay. Bullet point number three, here's another concern. Alsip could mitigate the potential dangers associated with exotic animal ownership and I emphasize, enhance protection for its residents. Is it written anywhere in our ordinance, or should we add language on how we are going to enhance protection for its residents? All right, and then finally, bullet point number 4, promoting animal welfare. Alsip can ensure the welfare of exotic animals through regulations modeled of the state guidelines. So, to ensure welfare of exotic animals what does that mean? Is our health department going to go out and make sure that they're harbored correctly and being fed correctly? I mean, is our health department trained? Do they need to be certified? So what exactly does ensure mean? Should we add language first before we proceed and get more details on what we're going to do before we pass this legislation?
Why would we add additional language for something that we're ill-equipped to maintain and manage anyhow?
Well,
All
that's...
we're going to do is we're going to get in compliance with the state's guidelines, and the state, my assumption is already ahead of the game as identified in the previous meeting.
Exactly. So to say that Alsip can ensure the welfare, what does that mean?
Well, I don't know who says it.
I mean, this is what I'm reading, and for Alsip, to enhance protection for its residents, okay, how are we going to do that? I mean...
By complying with what the state has for guidelines.
Okay. So I'm just, want to get clarification for the public. So I think this is the time to get all the answers, all the questions out and get some answers. And if anybody else has any concerns, now's the time.
I do, and thank you, Trustee Preda. And just things that came to mind is are we an outlier? And so I did try to look online to see any other nearby municipalities that do have a similar ordinance that we currently have. And Oak Lawn, our neighbor to the north, does have an ordinance about keeping certain animals prohibited. And the language is pretty much almost identical, with the exception of the last sentence, this shall not apply to circuses when properly licensed by village officials. And secondly, the petition is being made by someone that doesn't reside in the village and doesn't have an intention of opening like brick and mortar facility here or brick and mortar business. So my question is, how many other municipalities have been approached making the ask for a change in the ordinance, and is Oak Lawn one of them?
That was in the, we actually did have some the petitioner actually did have some examples in the packet that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, too. I know, I guess most specifically, Ali, can I ask you to come up to the microphone for a minute, please? Certainly the reason for this meeting is this is a committee meeting, and certainly you've got 5 out of 6 trustees here this evening that are certainly that they decide policy and expenditures, and this is where they can evaluate, because it was just a lot to digest when we spoke last time. Give everybody a couple of weeks to read over and so forth. Was there a particular species or a particular animal that you were trying to, like in your business, let's say with the reptile den, that you were trying to bring in as far as educational went to, like to the schools? Was there, because like when you read here like about boas and pythons and stuff like that, I mean, I used to know people that actually had these, and that people still do. People have these as pets and stuff like that. Is this one of the species that you're talking about yet too?
It is one of them, because boas and pythons, they are constrictor snakes. And I mean, they vary from 2 feet to, 18 feet. So, and when I proposed the amendment, it wasn't necessarily on the angle of, for me to conduct business myself. It was more so just to allow, if people want to harbor that interest in Alsip, they could, safely like buy a snake or something that would be illegal. And the vagueness of the law classifies a lot of reptiles is illegal, because just because a snake doesn't have any arms or legs, so it could really only constrict, right? So that I mean, in theory, makes most species of snakes illegal across the board.
So can you actually, because I don't know, this is out of my regular field of work, but can you actually walk into a pet store and buy a boa constrictor?
Yes. So the most common, so ball python. They're native to West Africa. They're probably the most popular snake you can buy in the U.S., and there's actually more ball pythons in captivity in America than there are in the wilds in West Africa. And you could walk into like a Petco or a PetSmart, and they do sell them, and they are constrictors, and they do get 6 feet. But, I mean, the truth is, it would take a very substantial animal to be of risk to a person, and it's negligent to just blanket ban all of that. And Trustee Peretta had mentioned, like, how are we going to prevent a kid from bringing like a Komodo dragon to a school, for example, where Komodo dragons, you have to have a special use permit. You have to be an AZA licensed zoo to even begin to get, the state permits required. And Alsip wouldn't necessarily need to conduct, like checkups and appointments and stuff like that. IDNR facilitates that. You do get spot check-ins. They have to certify the enclosures. And, I mean, when we're talking about, like, crocodiles and Komodo dragons, I mean, you need very proper enclosure. A Komodo dragon, you'd have to be in an AZA zoo, and, I mean, you'd have to have a brick and mortar for that. But there's a lot of private citizens in Illinois that own crocodiles in their home, and that's all checked on by IDNR. It's a state permit you apply for every year. There's conditions to that permit. So for that special use permit in particular, you have to do 6 educational shows a year at least. You receive letterheads and you submit it at the end of the year in order to be able to renew. So there's that. So it's very beneficial in that sense.
Right. So and I appreciate all the information you gave us here too. And I did confirm this. I looked up on Justia and stuff, all the law books I looked up last week to confirm your information was accurate. But back in 2019, I just want to give the board a quick example. Any species of boa, python, anaconda not native to the United States, regardless of length, must be properly maintained in a suitable, strong, impact-resistant, escape-proof enclosure at all times, unless being used for a bona fide education program or a trip to a veterinary care. They also say that during any bona fide education program involving boas or pythons or anacondas not native to the U.S., the owner or affiliated agent must maintain physical possession of the snake at all times if removed from a container or cage. Interiors of cages or containers used during educational programs may not be accessible to the public. In other words, you can't go near them. And then during any transport of the same snake must be kept out of sight of the public in a escape-proof enclosure at all times. In other words, the state of Illinois, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, is doing what they can to protect the public from and like you say, even like crocodiles and so forth yet then too. Personally, again, I don't want to speak for the board. I was okay with the original ordinance, and I think that the first question that they had, Ali, with no bias against your particular profession,
Absolutely.
is are we fully equipped to manage a crisis situation, a small crisis situation, when it comes to critters like these? I don't know that like the chief just answered that for us. I don't believe that we are. I think the safe language is what we have in place right now, and obviously I understand, like you said, sometimes we have language that might be antiquated, from like this is from 1997. Give me an example, though, too. Have you asked for the same, like, in any other community around here, and what kind of response have you got from them?
So I haven't, and the truth is, we used to live in Berwyn, and our apartment had flooded, and we broke lease, and while we were looking for an apartment, and I had my whole menagerie there, and we were looking for apartments, and we were going to move into Alsip, but we checked the ordinances, and it was like, I mean, there'd be no way, because I'm seeking to get others, I have some state permits, but I'm seeking to get more, and it just wouldn't work in a city like this, so we live in countryside, where it's open, we made that decision.
Okay. And Countryside's okay with that right now, too?
Yeah, it just defers to the state.
Okay. And certainly, I'm not calling Mayor McDermott to talk about that either, but it's like, I'm glad you were able to find a haven for
definitely.
your, for your reptiles and
Yeah.
stuff, too, for lack of a better word. So, I mean, again, this is certainly a board decision, not mine, but it certainly is as a professional courtesy always, or someone like yourself, you have an interesting business that a lot of us are not familiar with and stuff yet, too. So we only know what we know, and as Trustee Navas-Esparza said, sometimes you can look at nearby communities, and that's what I did, too. I really appreciate the fact that you were so transparent with me. You gave me the packet, to kind of look at, and you're right, not all this helped you and stuff yet then, too, but it's something to look at.
And that's really my goal, is to make these proposals all over Illinois, because there's a lot of states and, a lot of cities that have those kind of similar ordinances in place, but, IDNR, like, the entity has, very strict laws, and, it would take severe negligence on the owner, and, that would be, it would take severe negligence for anything to happen just with how the laws are written.
If you were to pick out, just to make this such a simplistic conversation right here, right now, what would be the most important thing that you would look for any kind of change?
So when I was reading the ordinance, it kind of groups like farm animals into it, and I totally get like, not having, farm animals in the city limits and stuff like that, but to kind of group in just reptiles as a whole. So constrictor snakes is a huge one, and just like the piranha one, for example, there's hundreds of carnivorous fish that exist, bigger than piranhas, but why is piranhas specifically outlined? And there's no species of crocodilian that, I think the ordinance says 12 inches. There's none that are 12 inches. The smallest crocodile is a Cuvier's dwarf caiman, and they're 3 to 4 feet. So, like, having that, like, written out in the ordinance is, doesn't really make any sense.
We live in a very urban atmosphere, and forgive me, I grew up in the city myself, as well as everybody else, where we live on the south side of Chicago and stuff here. But obviously, the reason you see that is we consider those dangerous animals and stuff yet, too. Some people can't take the sight of a raccoon running free, that kind of thing, It's that simplistic sometimes, and even coyotes, for crying out loud, they're afraid of us, but yet somebody sees one,
Right.
and they're like, oh my gosh, that kind of thing, too. But I think, and I don't want to, like, diffuse this, because I think you're onto something really great and stuff then, too, but this is where I could defer back to the board and just say, simply ask, after the board members, after you've had a chance to kind of digest this without wasting our time or Ali's time, was anyone interested in modifying this ordinance the way it stands? Chuck, did you want to say something? Okay.
I had a question when I was here the other day, and I actually heard this. And on point number 4, promoting responsible ownership. How do you do that? How do you police that? We have issues with people that can't even control their dogs and their cats. Just the other day, a couple of times, I think a neighbor down the street from me called 911 because a dog that's been unleashed for just about every time she walks her child almost attacked them, so calls the police. How, when it comes to these exotic animals, how would you, many owners are not responsible.
Well, that's what Trustee Peretta was just saying is, are we well equipped for this? The chief doesn't feel that we've got enough experience with this kind of a product.
I'd like to remind everybody of the alligator in Sears Park Pond, or Commissioners Park Pond. That was at 2006, 2008.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Is that real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, we're dealing with 3 or 4 dogs a week that are, chained up the fences and left and stuff like that. We have nowhere to take them. What am I going to do with something like that?
Right.
And we can't just drop off animals anymore without cost.
I know, we just went through that.
A lot of the animal hospitals, they either refuse it or you're searching all over the city to try to find where the strays, and we're paying extraordinary amount of money to house those.
That just happened here about a month ago. Someone actually chained a pit bull to the pump station, and Commissioner Tribun called me, and, we couldn't do much. And my assistant Becky got a hold of Cook County, and like, Mayor, we'll take them, but you're going to pay $110 a day until we until we find somebody to adopt them. We only pay $100 a day for a prisoner. We paid more for the dog to get taken care of and stuff, yet too, so.
So we got a health department that comes out for pools, comes out for grass. Years ago, we had an iguana. That's probably nothing to you, and I know you would be, an owner that would, handle things properly, but it was out in the yard. I was mowing the grass. You know
Right.
what? For people, neighbors that don't know much about any of this, that's going to scare the daylights out of and maybe give somebody a heart attack. I mean, seriously. And then one other point, when it comes, so you'd have to address these things. As you know, but it was on the fire department for many years. We go in on multiple occasions. It happens often where we're going in, smoke-filled conditions and that, and/or fires. It's one thing to be coming up to cats or hear cats and dogs. It's kind of a situation when you're running into exotic animals and
That's
and
a
what
good point.
and what they're going to do
Well
in the
said.
middle of a fire or smoke. So there's
Right.
just a lot of things you have to think about.
Understood, thank you. Mr. Dracy used to be our fire chief, he just retired. So, trustees, was there any other questions on this? In other words, I'd like to give Ali some direction as to whether or not we're interested in amending this ordinance. Did anyone wish to do that?
I have no problem bringing in alignment with the IDNRs, bringing ours up to date. But with regards to the effectiveness or the enforcement of it, it is what it is right now.
Right.
Mayor, just very briefly, I want to just read a little bit. Just under the Illinois statutes, Chapter 510, Section 5, animals. Now, this is a list, and it's a very short list of what is legal to own in the state of Illinois. And one thing you can own is snapping turtles, bullfrogs, native amphibians, and lastly, permitted exotic pets allowed under special handling requirements, which are boas, pythons, anacondas, captive bred poison dart frogs, and that's it. Those are the list of legally allowed in the state of Illinois. So, with that said, I'm okay with that. Because if we want to follow what the state law is, I'm okay with doing that.
So again, the state law allows, really, when you're looking at the same section, Section 68, 15-5, boas, pythons, and anacondas, unless contrary to any other law or rule. In other words, unless we have a rule, nothing shall prohibit lawfully acquired possession of any of the boa family, such as boas, pythons, anacondas, provided, as you just said, provided captive maintenance requirements from the department as set forth in this act are met. All boas, pythons, and anacondas referenced in this act are exempt from permit process as well, associated with an annual fee and liability insurance coverage. So, yeah, there's not like a lot of regulation on that, and the state of Illinois is allowing it. But I kind of deferred back to our police department, and certainly as Chief Geraci said, I don't know that our fire department's even equipped to, and Trustee Dalzell said the same thing as well, too, just to say that I don't think any of us have a problem with the rule. I just don't know if our town is equipped well enough to facilitate the need.
And that's the big question,
No.
And to make this all fair, we heard one side of this. Let's face it, this is a highly controversial subject matter. The state of Illinois, we have a comprehensive ban. We're among maybe 18 states that have this comprehensive ban. There are only basically 4 states that have no ban at all. But here, on the flip side, too, I mean, we haven't heard anything from the animal rights activists. How do they feel about it? Organizations like Born Free, heard from any naturalists or biologists. Let's face it, some people will say animals belong in their native state. To take them out away from their natural habitat, an animal, for example, when you harbor an exotic animal, an animal shows no pain. And as humans, how do we know if that animal's suffering, has pain, for example?
That's what we defer to the expert for that, but I think this was basically
exactly.
just for educational purposes,
and that's, to have an exotic animal is a complex thing. You got to provide simulate a natural habitat. Their diets are very complex. And once again, how do you know if it's sick? Wild animals don't exhibit pain. And there's a reason for that. Out in the wild, when you show pain, well, now you're showing weakness, and a predator's going to get you. Predators look for the weakness, right? When they're hungry, that's where the saying came from, work smart, not hard. And that's what animals do in the wild kingdom. They work smart. They go after the weak because it's easy targets. So that's why animals, it's in their DNA. They don't show pain for that reason because they don't want to show weakness because they'll get eaten up. But for a human to figure out does my exotic animal need treatment for an illness, it's hard to tell. You need a professional. And to find an exotic veterinarian around here, as far as I know, when I looked it up, the closest one is in Elmwood Park. That's 25 miles away from here. Mm-hmm. There's not too many exotic animals.
Most importantly, out of everything that you listed there, you haven't heard from the public either.
Exactly.
Before you were to move forward with something like this, I think you'd have a lot of upset people that didn't get a chance to find out ahead of time
right.
and weigh in if you were going to go that far.
And I agree. And that's what I mentioned about, the resident input. The petitioner does not know and respectfully doesn't live in Alsip.
No, Your Honor and everybody, I've been listening to this too. What is wrong with going to a zoo? Okay? If I could get away with it, I would clone a velociraptor. Okay? What are you going to do with that? Mm-hmm. Just say if it's something the fire department or the police have to come there. Like I said, if I could get away with it, I would clone a velociraptor. What are you going to do with that? I mean, you got to draw a line somewhere.
Right. All right, thank you, sir. Go ahead, Ali. You want to?
I would just like to briefly mention that reptiles do definitely exhibit pain, and these animals are very far from the wild. Now, most pythons and other species that we have in America have been being captive bred constantly over for the past, 50, 60 years. So they're very much captive bred. And I care for many of my animals, and the truth is, you could, it's just like taking your dog to the vet. You get prescribed medicine that you administer to the animal, so they very much do exhibit pain. And like snakes get respiratory infection, there's very clear signs. And people say they could read their dog. It's no different than a reptile, but I get it's very abstract, right? Because you guys may not be, reptile owners, and the truth is, not everybody gets the chance to go to the zoo. Believe it or not, not everybody could go to Asia, Africa, Australia. I've presented in a lot of churches and other educational schools and other educational institutions in inner city Chicago, and it's sad because you get pulled aside, and I'll get pulled aside by a teacher or an organizer, and they'll be like, thank you. These kids will never have the opportunity to go to the zoo. And it's really, it's in the same city. It's very close to where you guys are. So, the truth is, there's in zoos, not all species are shown. I have a western hognose that's endangered in Illinois that would be construed as illegal here, but I have state permits to own it for educational purposes. They don't have that animal in the zoo. So, how do you start that conversation with a kid?
You know what it is, Ali?
In front of them.
Is that, I believe what Trustee Peretta is kind of deferring to is, you're talking about serious novices. You're talking about folks that have never owned something like this, and might go into a store, might went online. I want to get that, I told you years ago, I'm going back to the 80s. I knew a couple of young ladies that lived downtown, and they each had 8-foot boa constrictors for pets. And they took care of them really well. I've actually fed them before, It took me a little bit to get used to that and stuff yet too, but I've actually fed those boa constrictors. And they were kind of like the bright white tannish kind of color
Yeah,
like that
just
too,
common boa constrictor.
Yeah, and huge, 8-foot long, both of them, but.
Not everybody, leave it up to the parents, right? You could go get a ball python, they call them ball pythons because they just ball up when they're nervous, but you could go into a PetSmart, Petco, they have that, okay, they have tarantulas. All tarantulas are at least mildly venomous, so, it's not venomous where it would, harm a person, but the truth is they are all mildly venomous, so that would make that, most of the quote-unquote exotic animals, even though, they're hardly, exotic by the means they're not cats and dogs, right? But like I mentioned earlier, there's more ball pythons in America than there are in West Africa where they're native to.
I get it.
They're hardly exotic nowadays, and a lot of these stores are kind of bolstering their, exotic animals that they offer, like Petland. There's a Chief Reptile in Chicago. So you could, very commonly get most of these animals just over the counter.
Oh, I get you, but again, we're opening the door for a lot of folks, not just the experienced folks like yourself. And again, like I said, this is a courtesy, this is something that I've been here 6 years as mayor, and I've never had somebody ask for such before. So I wanted to give it the time that it should. That's why I want everybody to kind of get a chance to get familiar with it.
Definitely. And a true novice could get into reptiles, right? We all started as novice. When I was a kid, I would, catch garter snakes and stuff like that. But the truth is, you could go into a PetSmart, you could buy a snake, the employee will show you the enclosure you need to buy. It's just, it could be set up on timers.
Right.
So everything you need is in one location. So it's very easy for a beginner to responsibly, own a reptile, for example.
Thank you. Thanks, Ali. I appreciate it. Trustees, any other comments? No? All right. Well, again, I don't want to put anything to a vote or anything like that unless we know what kind of criteria we were going to go for. But if we don't know what kind of, based on even what we were looking at, it's pretty broad yet too. But I think for the most part, me anyway, like I said, I want to keep an open mind to this. I'm here to facilitate a meeting. You folks are the ones that set the policies. Did anyone wish to make a change to the current ordinance?
I definitely think incorporating the idea in our rules is something that we should at least, take a look at and get our ordinance up to date, at least in terms of, enforcing this licensing and various things. I don't know necessarily that I want to jump in with both feet, but I definitely think our ordinance needs some work.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, at the very least, as far as education, I'm all about education, and if we need to update the ordinance to have somebody who is licensed and certified to bring something to school to educate our children, then I'm for it, you know what I mean, at the very least. So like Trustee McLaurin said, let's not jump in with both feet, let's test the waters, let's take baby steps. And I think at the very least, if our ordinance needs to be updated as far as, like I said, having somebody who is certified to come and do a demonstration, I think that would be.
Trustee, as the chair of ordinance legislation, do you want to take a crack at that? Do you want to look at that and bring something back to the board on what you think you'd like to see?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
I'll work on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've got a committee, you certainly can defer to your committee people and see what they think about it as well then too. And if nothing else, if, like you said, even if it was restricted to just educational purposes and not homeowner ownership, I don't know, we have to run it past legal so we're not discriminating against anybody though too.
Right. This is complicated. This is not an easy.
I agree. That's why we had Ali come back out and stuff yet too.
We're home rule, so therefore we can be more constrictive.
Yes.
to use that phrase.
Right. That's fine. I just want to be fair to the conversation, but I think Trustee Pryor, you're onto something, and, yeah, if you want to, you've got Ali's contact info, you can reach out to him if you need, or I can get it to you.
And for anybody to come in, if they're state certified licensed, they can do it for educational purposes.
Right. Actually, you can't, though, Ali, you're saying right now, right?
So I mean, the truth is, there's, like you mentioned earlier, there is no restrictions on constrictor snakes, so you wouldn't be, state licensed, but for special use species like crocodiles, Komodo dragons, there is state licensing, but the truth is, IDNR has no regulation for the kind of constrictor snake you have, or the size, all pythons aren't venomous or anything, but, so that, there's that too, where they're, they can be certified with the special use animals they exhibit, but what about the, pythons and stuff?
Understood, but the way our ordinance stands right now, you can't do an educational show because of the way this stands.
Right.
And that was one of your concerns that you addressed the first time you were here.
Yes, it is one of them.
Right.
So, okay, Trustee, I'll defer to you then, Trustee Prada, on this, okay? With ordinance legislation, take a look at it a little more?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
well.
Thanks, Ali.
Absolutely.
All right, Trustee Prada, anything else?
No, that'll do it this evening,
Okay.
Mayor.
We'll go to Planning and Zoning and Licenses Committee.
I have a presentation of a list of licenses dated October 9th, 2023 through October 27th of 2023, and that's
All
all
right.
I have.
Did anyone have any presentations, petitions, or communications they wanted to share? All right, just a reminder, obviously tomorrow is Halloween, and we celebrate this between 3 and 6:30 p.m. tomorrow night.
And
Anybody
as a
have,
reminder, turn your porch light on to let the kids know that you are handing out candy.
Sure.
And wherever possible, stick the orange sign in the door of the window.
and anybody have any unfinished business?
Just one quick note. Once, like Thanksgiving starts or somewhere like around the holidays, if you have some downtime, which I don't know how that works, but anyway, I'm going to have you guys all come through and see some of the updates that we did over the last year to the police department, and hopefully we'll have our monitors up with fuses and all our LPR cameras and all of that good stuff.
Oh, that'll be cool.
Chief, we still got to show them the locker room that we did and everything down there, too. It looked great.
Yes, the last pieces were installed.
I heard that finally put up walls in the guy's bathroom and stuff.
Yeah.
Partition walls finally came in. That darn supply chain's been slower than the heck, Anybody have any new business? Then I need to adjourn to a short closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the the public body, or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2, Chapter 1.
And we're actually adjourning to executive session?
Yes.
Okay, motion to adjourn to executive session.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fine. Thank you. I need to clear the boardroom for a short meeting with the board here, too. Thank you for attending this evening. Have a great night.